Amar, I hope you're doing well. We're recording this a little late in the day, and I'm reading the book 108. This is a weird side of the camera. I actually got a new tripod, and I'm just trying to understand if this is fine. Just like, am I looking into your eyes right? Because that's the point. I'm supposed to look into your eyes. So it's not easy to handle a tripod. Do you guys handle a tripod? It's not easy. It's complex because the phone is right now towards the other side of the side. Otherwise, where I put it, but right now it's on the other side. So I'll understand. This is the other side of the camera, and this is the eyes, right? So cool. So we're reading the book 10 short stories, and we're reading a chapter. This is on men and women. I guess I always call women. And there's a story towards the end of the chapter as it was earlier. So let's read it. Let's see, because some of the stuff I don't remember, because it's been a long time I wrote this book, and some of the stuff I don't remember. But we'll go as it goes, right? So let's see. For a long time I thought about what to say. It says women, right? For a long time I thought what to say. My views and feelings are so diverse about this particular topic that I'm overwhelmed. Please bear with me. I've tried to understand the subject again and again, and I've been failing at exams. I think that I respect women, or at least I like to think so. You see, as men, we cannot live without them. I've read the science of the process of proving that they can live without us. Women hold this word intact. They help men in maintaining their sanity, or we'll lose it. They are caregivers of the world. The mothers of the world bear children in their wombs. The sisters of this world do everything they can to see their brothers happy. Am I reading too fast? Maybe I think I should go a little slow. The wives of the world await their men and care for them all their lives, or actually work with them, like, because most of them are working now, right? There must be exceptions. They do not dispute the rule, though. Have you been able to understand ever the selfless love of your mother? Although I don't think any love is selfless now, but that's for later. Have you tried to understand? Have you been able to understand the selfless love of your mother? Have you tried to understand why she sits by your side while you eat and she just stares? Have you tried to understand why she calls you when you're out multiple times? Why does she tend to think most of the time that you've grown frail? I've tried to understand it. I think I have, but it does not make any rational sense to me. She does all this just to make sure that I'm fine. Every small thing that bothers me becomes a project for her. Let me give an example. Recently I lost a document. Okay, so this is written like 10 years back, so this is not recently. It's just recent in the book. An insurance policy premium receipt. I badly wanted the document and kept looking all over the place but did not find it. My mother started looking for it after I was done. She asked me why, when, how about the document, and looked visibly concerned about it. She also searched all over the house. She did not find it. She asked me to search in a case all over. I searched 5 times. I frisked in front of her. I said, "It's not there." She said, "What's a small piece of paper?" I had not seen that paper earlier. It was the receipt. I did not express it, but I was surprised at not being able to find it myself and her realizing that it was there the first time. She claimed all the credit for having found it deservingly. She does this all the time. Everything that bothers me a little bit bothers her even more. I know it. If something disturbs me and I tell her, she does not react swiftly. There's something wrong somewhere. My mother's a woman, and I love her. Another important woman in my life is my sister. Wow. So I've kind of analyzed the women in my life at that point, right? Now she does not talk as shamelessly as I do. She's a blessing to our small family, and happy we grew up in an environment where there was no discrimination. I would have felt ashamed of myself otherwise. In fact, I'm happy that I have one. I know many people who don't know what it is like to have a sister. By the way, I cannot prove it, but there may have been some discrimination against me. Allow me to digress a bit. While writing this section, I've been confronted with the question, when does a girl become a woman? It is similar to the question, when does a boy become a man? I addressed the former question by asking whoever I could ask in my small world, are you a girl or a woman? Why do you think so? I'll share the results with you in a while. I addressed the second question by asking myself, am I a boy or a man? Wow. I never cared to ask this question before. Interesting, isn't it? So this is what I thought. I'm 28, which I was at the time of writing this. It was published when I was 29. I can handle relationships and responsibility. I'm an MBA. I worked for over 4 years then. So does that make me a man? Why am I still not a boy? Who defines it? What is the criterion? Are you a boy or a man, by the way? If you consider the age for being eligible to vote, then I turned a man at 18 years of age. But This does not make sense to me. I don't buy it. So, did I become a man when I started working? Well, okay, having a job does give you a certain level of responsibility, but does it mean that there are no boys or girls working in companies? No. How about business process outsourcing companies? Most of them are young lads out of college or in college speaking Czech English. They definitely won't buy it. I don't either. Well, then, does it make you a man when you have a girlfriend? I don't think so. There are many emotional boys in foolish, childish, immature relationships, even in school. So I know they're boys since at one time I was one. Here's my answer. I have not taken this decision before, and I'm going to take it now. I'll tell you my reasons for it. I'm a man, I'm not a boy anymore. You become a man when you decide to be one. You see, like anything else, it needs to be given considerable amount of thought at the person level. You need to decide why you think you are a man and you're not a boy anymore. Do not take anybody's rules. There's a lot of trash going around over and over this world. People will tell you that you become a man when you're 25 years old or any stupid age number. Some will tell you that you become a man and sleep with a woman or a girl for the first time. Do you understand how ridiculous this is? In the world that we live in, many boys and girls are having sex in schools. I have no reason to believe that there are men, women who can handle vicissitudes of life confidently. For that matter, I know people who are double my age and cannot take it when life plays tough. Here's the formula. Man minus boy is the perceived maturity. So what I'm saying is that I have a perception of maturity about maturity myself. I decided. No one does it for me. I think I'm a grown-up and mature person who handles difficult situations, handles responsibility. What are the levels of maturity? Physical, mental, spiritual. Now coming back to women, or they'll feel neglected. The question I asked was, when does a girl become a woman? Here are a few responses I received. A girl becomes a woman when she bears a child. That is when she becomes a mother. I don't know who did I ask, but I'm sure I did ask a few people. There's another response. I think I'm a woman. I do not know when I stopped being a girl. I'm a girl. I do not have the maturity of a woman was another answer, right? So look at the last response. It gives the answer. Women minus girl is equal to perceived maturity. Again, if you're a female, decide for yourself what you are. You decide for yourself. It's a complicated question and needs cognitive effort. Exert it. It is more important than finding out what sub caste you belong to. There are many things I don't like about the word 11. This is a random prose, right? This is not a vastly greatly written book, but it's prose that's just asking and trying to answer random questions. There are many things I don't like about the word 11. One of those things is the way we treat women or girls as a society. Things are changing for the better, and that's quite a comfort. There are women who feel that they should not have daughters. I cannot believe it. I heard a woman saying this is few days back. God should not give the pain of daughters to anyone. My parents think it's a burden. Many parents think, not mine. Many parents think it's a burden. So many young infant girls are killed in the womb. Many men have no respect for their wives. They tend to think that once they're married to them, the wives are their property and liable to be treated roughly. In our great capital city of Delhi, women are not safe in the streets. They're followed, harassed, scared almost every single day. Maybe it's not important to be a political issue. I know this sounds trite, but this is everyday news in the national newspapers. Somebody getting raped, molested, harassed, or even burnt alive. Most of the perpetrators get away with these heinous crimes and life goes on. All men get a bad name. I do not live in an insulated world. It bothers me. I remember one evening when there was a chaos in New Delhi owing to the farmers' rally recently, and I was crossing Janpath on foot with a female colleague. People were running here and there. We were scared running towards our car. One man came running to me and said, "Do not go that side, they're molesting women." My colleague, in a fit of horror, held my mind and we ran towards our car. We survived, thankfully. She told me later that she was dead scared and the greatest fear of female is somebody harassing her. When I thought about it, it brings shivers to my body, and I thought, I do not know how many shrieks of silence and lives destroyed mercilessly as I write this. Now there's a story. There's a story now. Satinder Singh and Preeto Kaur. Wow. Nice names, no? Satinder Singh and Preeto Kaur got married a year back. The couple lived in Ludhiana, Punjab, India. Satinder had a garment shop in Ludhiana, which his father had started after coming back from Pakistan. He had inherited the business. Satinder's father did not work anymore and had retired from work 3 years back. His mother had been a housewife all her life. He did not have siblings. He was told that he was 1 year old. His mother gave birth to a boy who died within few months of the birth due to pneumonia. Satinder had studied till class 12th. That is, he had about 14 years of school education. His parents had decided this was enough, since eventually he had to come back to the business itself. so there was no point in educating him much. He will learn the business by doing it after all. His schooling was enough. Preeto was starry-eyed, dainty girl. She belonged to a small family in Patiala. She was an undergraduate in English literature. Wow. Her father worked in an engineering goods company and had respectable monthly income. Her brother worked with an accountancy firm. He was not married as yet. Their family had decided that Preeto will get married first, as the pressure is on the girls to marry first, and similarly on the parents to marry their daughter as possible. The pressure comes in various forms. It comes from relatives, from the society, and friends. Everybody seems to be tense that someone's daughter is not getting married. God knows what is wrong. We as a society have a long way to go in learning to mind our own business. The marriage was arranged by a relative. She was an aunt of Preeto who had suggested the match. Preeto's father had been looking for a match for Preeto over a year when this match came up. The aunt has said, Sardarji, it is an excellent match for Preeto. You know they are a well-settled business family in Ludhiana and have been living there for many years. You have no idea how much respect they command in the society there. Preeto will live like a queen for the rest of her life. You do not have to think about anything. The girl's family met the boy's family. Preeto met Satinder for a few minutes during the meeting and thought that he was a simple man with simple values. Although she had her apprehensions about marrying someone who was less educated than her, her parents felt that it was good match since Satinder's family enjoyed a higher middle class financial status. And Satinder was tall and physically smart. The decision was made. Satinder's family demanded a bribe of 500,000 rupees, which would be duly paid by Preeto's father, as this was a custom inbuilt in the society there. Not many people questioned the substratum of this custom. How did it make sense whatsoever? Why should the girl's family pay any dowry? Are they buying the groom? People just accepted this as a part of life and moved on. Fathers of young girls worked all their lives to accumulate the dowry amount for the daughters and gave it at the time of the marriage. Some people did not have the resources to pay dowry. Their daughters stayed at home and were abused by in-laws. In fact, one of the reasons daughters are still considered a burden by many couples is that their financial liabilities. It's not happening. It's very rare in India now because of internet. These stories spread like wildfire, and thankfully so. The marriage was settled within 2 months as Satinder's family members wanted. It was a frenetic period for both families. No one cared to ask what the rush was about. Preeto was married off, and the entire community congratulated her father on having married off the daughter successfully. As if it meant good riddance. Preeto had spent about 3 hours broken down in a few meetings before they got married. It was not considered correct for the girl to ask to meet the guy before marriage, and Satinder had not asked. When she had asked her father about it, he said, "It's okay, Preeto. You have the whole life to spend with him, and then you can understand him." The dowry amount of rupees 500,000 was paid at the time of the marriage, and marriage was solemnized. Preeto realized within the first week of marriage she was going to have a rough time. She realized that she had married a man who did not have the intellectual capability to understand her. She wanted to work, and she realized Satinder would not allow her to work. They did not have the opportunity to have this conversation earlier. She was told by Satinder's mother that she did not bring enough money with her. She did not understand this. Her father had paid what they had asked for. She confronted Satinder and complained to him about the comment made by his mother. "What wrong has my mother said? You thought that you would just bring what my father asked for. What happens with 500,000 these days? You know, when Ravi in our neighborhood got married, his wife brought 20 lakhs, 200,000. But that's why my father would have paid. He spent his life savings in the marriage." "How can you say all this?" Preeto said. "That's none of my concern." All that marriage meant to Satinder was fulfillment of his sexual desire and their parents' social obligation. Preeto felt distraught at her decision to marry. In fact, she felt she had been wronged by her parents also. They had given her no opportunity to talk to Satinder, and now she found herself in a mess. When she became pregnant, Satinder's family insisted she should undergo an ultrasound to find out the gender of the baby in the womb. They wanted a boy. Preeto refused to undergo any test, at which she was abused and assaulted until she gave in. As luck would have it, the child was a girl. All hell broke loose at the news. Preeto's in-laws now insisted that she abort the child. She was horrified at their behavior. There was no way she was going to take it. Although she had borne the harassment since her marriage, this was something that she was not going to take, come what may. One of those days, Satinder's aunt, his father's sister, came to see Preeto. She used to come sometimes as she lived in Ludhiana only. She used to like Preeto and understood her predicament, but found her very helpless. She could not help Preeto. When Preeto disclosed to her what her in-laws were asking for, she was taken aback. She said, "They are at it again. Preeto, I'm going to tell you a secret that even Satinder does not. I think you should not take this at all. Save the life of your daughter and that of yourself. These people will destroy both lives." The aunt said. Satinder never had a brother. When he was a year old, another child was born by his mother. They had wanted another son, but the child turned out to be a girl. These people have no respect for women whatsoever. The girl was thrown into the pond at the end of the city. Preeto started shivering. She called her father and told him to come to receive her. She did not tell him anything when he asked. She told Satinder she was leaving forever and left with her father. She filed a divorce application to Satinder and the court granted her the verdict. Satinder and his parents were sent to jail for 5 years. Preeto took a job in Chandigarh and started a new life with the most adorable daughter in the world. Sometimes she thinks about the decision of leaving her marital home and living alone. She is sure that she was better than what she would have been in a bad and painful relationship, and maybe she would find someone who would understand her. Alright, that's the end of the story. Great. Alright, these are small stories on subjects that I found important, because this was my first book, and I didn't know if to write fiction, if to write prose, or if to write a fable, and I just wrote stories around subjects which I thought I had an opinion about. So don't judge my writing there, but I think the message is important, right? And Preeto did the right thing. Thank you. Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you. Bye.